Okay, so I want to introduce to you all a very good friend of mine and a former business owner. His name is Raleigh DeLeon, and we are privileged to have him on staff with us in our Trans World Raleigh office. Raleigh comes to us from many years of owning his own business, and we're going to spend some time talking about that today. Before we get started, though, Riley, why don't you just share a few things about yourself, about your background, and then we'll jump into some of the questions that we have.
Thanks, Mike. Privileged to do this. Yeah, just a quick thing about me. I was born in Chicago, grew up in the Raleigh area, and been married to my wife for 36 years as of yesterday. We met in high school, so we're high school sweethearts. I tell people to be careful who you carpool to school with. You may be carpooling to church on Sundays.
There you go.
And so I graduated from the Citadel with a degree in biology, and went active duty in the Air Force. And while I was in the Air Force, I got my MBA from Embry-Riddle, and did some traveling, whether it was in Florida, working with a shuttle for a little bit, or NATO in Germany for my last 2 years. And got out as a captain, went to move to back to Raleigh in the Research Triangle, worked for MCI, which is now Verizon. Got laid off, so I know what that feels like. And then IBM for 2 years there. And then I realized that I had this itch that didn't want to be in business for myself, but I did not want to be in business by myself. And so I left corporate America and I came to Chick-Fil-A, where I was a franchisee, or what we call owner operator, for 22 years. And I have 2 adult daughters, a son-in-law, and a grandson.
Very good. Well, it sounds like you've got a rich well of experience to draw on. And so we wanted to focus on particularly your experience in owning and operating your own business. So give us a little bit of background of how you got started as an owner operator franchisee.
That's a great question. So working for Chick-fil-A or partnering with the Cathy family is no small task. I will say that you have a better chance of getting into Harvard Law School than you do becoming a franchisee. So I got in early. So that's the reason why they allowed me to be part of Chick-fil-A, and I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot, despite all those other things I said I had done before. Chick-fil-A by far developed me more as a human being, and as a father, and as a husband, as a leader, and a community person, part of my community. So, but what's interesting was I had worked as a busboy at a restaurant, and but I've never really owned a restaurant. So the mindset was, you can teach anybody how to make a chicken sandwich. The key was being able to invigorate, inspire, and develop people and help them, and at the same time take care of the business and sell chicken. And so that was hard work, and it didn't get any easier as time went on. And so for me, understanding when was the right time to leave is really important, because sometimes we can overstay our welcome. I can think of, I'm sure we all can think of, Mike, of athletes, men and women that should have hung it up, or artists, their voice started to change or whatever, and it was time to hang it up. For me, I recognized, after reading a book called From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks, that it was time for me to start looking at making a shift, making a change. I've been thinking about this probably for 14 months or so. And in that reflection, I realized this was the right thing to do for myself, for my family, and also for those people around me that I influence.
Okay. So we know what Chick-fil-A does, or I guess I assume everybody out there knows what Chick-fil-A does, but Why don't you just give us a brief description of what the nature of what it means to run a Chick-fil-A, and then what sets apart Chick-fil-A from other types of businesses in the same industry?
It's a good question, very good question. So first off, Chick-fil-A is privately held, and that was very important to me based upon my strengths and the things I thrive in. I had to believe in what I was partnering with, even though I didn't know anything about running a restaurant. But they really give us a lot of latitude as owner operators as to what we do. Essentially, they're looking for a Mustang versus a mule. I don't know if you've ever heard that analogy. Like, but if you have a mule, it's going to take them a lot to do something, to get them to try something. Versus a Mustang, if you have that border or that fence, they're going to come right up to that border of that fence, and they're going to test that fence, and they're going to see what they can do and explore their creativity and how to grow the business, how to develop people. And so that sparks a lot of ingenuity and a lot of systems. And quite frankly, what I did a lot of is I looked at these best practices from my peers, and the ones that I could emulate, I would do my best and maybe tweak and craft as to what makes sense to the way I lead in my business.
Mm.
We have the same.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And you have the same challenges of making sure that you're generating a profit, a healthy profit, making sure that you're trying to maintain high retention, low turnover. You're also trying to make sure you're giving competitive pay to your people. Great quality is essential. And if you do those things, financial return, along with your marketing, which you embrace, that's what's going to get you results.
Mm. What would you say is, or what are a few things that sets Chick-fil-A apart from other players in this industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Horst Schulze had said, to be careful how I say this, Chick-fil-A is the best when it comes to the quick service restaurant, but our competition is really ourselves, based upon how do we raise that bar of outstanding customer service. And so that's one thing I would say, that customer service is important. And the corporate purpose that we had or have is that to glorify God by being a faithful steward to what's been entrusted to us, and to have a positive influence on all who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. Mm. That's something I obviously took to heart, and it makes it challenging because as the marketplace, as our environment shifts, maintaining that high level of integrity is really challenging and very stressful. And like my father-in-law told me 22 years ago, if you're going to own your own business, you get to choose what 20 hours a day you work. And it felt like that, if not physically, mentally, and emotionally, it did. So it's our customer service, and that can't happen if you don't have a great support system. And so having that support system is important. But maybe giving you a little segue, Mike, is that, there's a phrase that I've heard at Chick-fil-A, and I've carried into my own life, and I'll probably carry it in the months and years to come, is that when the rate of external change exceeds the rate of internal change, you have a problem. That's where I was at. I was at a point where there was a problem, and I did not know how to fix it. We're in the middle of COVID. My dining room shut down. We're changing our revenue stream. We're highly digital, quote unquote, using phones for people to place the order so they can play. One time, I think we were number 11 in the nation and number 1 in the market for % of transactions that were done on people's smartphones, and we did not do them ourselves. So we had to leverage all that. And in that process, we created new problems and created some demands and shifting as things that I can't control, whether it be the entities around me, whether it's our landlord, whether it's the federal government or the OSHA and the COVID, having to shift things so that you continue to generate a profit. made it challenging, which also came into play when it comes down to taking care of people.
Mm,
And I heard something, a little plug for the Deal Board podcast that's out there. I heard something that I've taken to heart that makes lots of sense to me is uh, that the whole idea is it, as the franchisee, it's my job to take care of my people, my team. I've had people people that were with me over 18 years, 12 years, 14 years. I have some people with tenure, that core group. Take care of those people, and those people will take care of your customers. And those customers will take care of your business.
mm,
And then subsequently, that business is supposed to take care of me as the owner, as the franchisee. And that last link, that was falling apart.
mm,
On my circumstance, and I'm not complaining when I say this, based upon my circumstance, the business could no longer take care of me, even though there are times I gave pay raises, tried to show favor towards my people, also giving them boundaries, try to deliver a quality, hot, delicious product that would grow the business. That was not working, and it was time to make a change.
mm. So, what was in the process of deciding, okay, now it's time for me to think about my exit strategy? I'm sure that was something that occurred over a period of time. Um, Going through that, what was one of the things that surprised you the most, or what was something that was unexpected as you went through your exit strategy?
Yeah, so it was definitely a process, because when you've been doing something for 22 years, it felt more like, I've never been divorced, but it felt like what I think what a divorce would be like, than it would be just like, oh, I'm just going to stop doing this. So there was a lot of sweat equity. There was a lot of history. There was a lot of fond memories that I'm always going to carry. But a lot of this had to do with a lot of listening. And I had to listen and allow feedback from people the way I make decisions. And I started listening to trusted advisors, friends that would give me sound advice. I started reading some books where I started to realize that maybe it was a time where it was time for me to shift, where maybe that book I was mentioning earlier, From Strength to Strength, that maybe my first curve, or the thing that I've been doing for so long, maybe my relevancy is starting to fade.
Mm,
I've shared this with my peers who would say, I was used to dunking basketball, and I was used to playing the whole game, but now the goals are 11 feet high and the quarters are half an hour long, and I no longer have that type of endurance.
mm,
It's time to make that shift.
mm,
So, looking honestly in the mirror, and being courageous about it, and talking to family and listening to them, I think seeing the marketplace shift, but also listening to my wife. And when she started to see for many years how difficult this was, that maybe it was time to make a shift.
mm,
And that was almost permission. It was permission, and it felt freeing. And as the more I explored, maybe getting back to the question, I started exploring and talking to other opportunities, and I realized how relevant and how much I had learned at Chick-fil-A and other things I had done that could work in other environments.
mm,
So finding the right place, the good fit, or I knew myself a lot more, that I could be more selective as to what would be a good fit, where I would thrive, where I'd be able to contribute, and hopefully make the next place thrive, and be a helpmate to my team. I know life is more of a team sport,
mm.
and but making sure I have my listening ears. I sometimes I think, I don't know if you ever heard of this, Mike. I sometimes have to manage. I have 4 ears and half a mouth. That's not the way this interview is going right now, but but there are times where I just really need to lean in, especially what I'm hearing seems kind of harsh or makes me smart inside. Like, okay, what are they really saying? And listening, and that in itself can be helpful in digesting the process.
Mm. Yeah. So as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about a lot of business owners that I've met and that I've had conversations with. And I think there's a thread that runs through a lot of their stories. And part of that is what you've already mentioned and alluded to, is coming to the understanding that, um, embracing your own limitations, knowing where you are in life, being self-reflective, and then being smart enough to pivot to kind of re-engage or re-up your contribution professionally. So as I heard you talk, I mean, I heard you sharing some very, well thought out things about, hey, I've been on this arc for a long time, and now it's time for me to find another arc, another journey to go on. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it requires a level of self-reflection, humility, and honesty to say, hey, even though I've had a good run here, maybe it's time for me to find another field to plow. And it sounds like that's what you've done. Um, was that all of those types of things? Were those the thoughts that you kind of had to process as you were going through this journey?
Yeah, you process. I'll tell a funny story. There are a group of men that I've been meeting with for over a dozen years, and so we've gotten fairly intimate. And I asked the guys, I said, "Hey, I know everyone in this room has some sort of retirement plan. How much they want to have set aside, and I know mine is not the biggest, but I would almost guess that the gentleman whose is the biggest, they're saying it's not enough."
Mm.
And I got a chuckle out of that. I just, and so, I kind of talked about it earlier, Mike. Luck favors the prepared, right? And so sometimes life comes at you, and you have to respond with either being courageous, or humble, or whether it being bold and curious. And so I had to go down the curious path and ask questions. And I think about timing, what is the right time and how this is to happen. And it really wasn't the perfect time for me to say it's time to retire. It was time for me to retire from selling chicken, but it wasn't the time for me to retire from work. And also I know I had something in the gas tank, but I knew it was different. And so I knew that I couldn't do what I was doing the way I was doing it for another 2 to 5 years. And so I think that's the time that you have to go through. And I think about those people that may be watching this to say, wow, am I going to wait and find the time to go out and I have to sell at a low part? Or am I going to while things are going well, my books are strong, the business is healthy, it's thriving, is this the right time to sell?
Mm.
So those are the things you have to think about, the timing of it. And then there's also things that we can't even quantify in price, right? Our health, our family dynamics that may be going on, things going in the world, and then mental health, which is something that has become more of a conversation in our society the past 2 years, 36 months or so.
Mm.
So it's something to think about. But I think another thing that I've been reflecting upon, Mike, is this thing called luck. You and I know each other. I don't believe in luck, but we both have circumstances, and some circumstances are healthy, and some of them aren't. And a guy by the name of Jim Collins, one of his more recent book, has a chapter on the return on luck, and using the airline industry, there are two airlines, Southwest Airlines and another one, I think it's called Pacific West Airlines or whatever. I don't know if you've ever heard of Pacific West. Have you? Probably not, Mike. The latter one.
No.
Well, they were the ones that Southwest modeled everything about. But quite frankly, they did much better than the Pacific Airlines did. And Jim Collins did extensive studies, and he's very methodical in this, and looked across all these disciplines and recognized that no business, whether it's in the entertainment industry, whether it's in the news industry, whether it's the airline industry, no business has more luck than another. Okay? No one has more luck. It's or circumstance, right? Good or bad circumstance, we'll say. But the key is what they do with the luck that they're given.
Mm-hmm.
You can use the example of someone that's won the lottery, and a year later it's all gone, right? And it's a very sad story. And then you have people that had very difficult lives, and they're those success stories. Mm-hmm. And we can float that around the other way too. Mm-hmm. So the key takeaway is, what do you do with the circumstance you're given? And it's being bold enough to look yourself in the eye and say, it's time. It's time to make a shift. It's time to, using the example of a cowboy, it's time to dismount. Mm. Like you and I were talking about Steve Wright, the leader of our firm, how me and Steve are talking about, we're all going to dismount whatever we're on right now. And the thing is that what we're dismounting is going to look very different, right? One day, like you and I are no longer going to be working together, but the way we dismount, even if in the same career, it's going to look different. And so that's the beauty of what we get to do with advising businesses as to how we can help them make that transition as graceful and as helpful and as profitable as possible.
Mm. Yeah, you talked about luck. I kind of joke about this. So both sides of my family are Irish, and you've heard the phrase "the luck of the Irish." Well, the family secret is the luck of the Irish is nothing more than perseverance, right? You just don't give in. You don't give up. And honestly, I think that kind of goes along with what you were saying about, there's no such thing as good or bad luck. It is what it is, and it's what you make of it. And so I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Go create your own luck, right? Create it.
You create your own luck. That's right.
We have the tendency to look at the grass, and grass is greener, and everybody has it much better. And I think if we really bore down to it, I think about those men that I've been meeting with for the past dozen or so years. If we really listen to the problems that each one of us have and being transparent, we kind of walk away saying, would I want to change my circumstance with them? And you start realizing that all this stuff, the glamorous things that we would see, we'd be like, you know what? I'm okay with my problems. You're okay with yours. I'll just kind of keep mine. I know I need to work on them. It's not perfect, but we all have them. And we tend to, I have a tendency to kind of make, oh, wow, everything is going so great in their world, and mine's just a gray, rainy cloud following me everywhere. But it's not the truth.
Not true at all. In fact, the reason that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence is because that's where the sewer pipe is leaking.
That's right. That's right. And that's where the plumber is going to make some money by fixing it.
Exactly. And when he gets ready to sell, I hope he gives me a call. I'll be happy to help him sell his business. Right. So is there any one piece of advice that you would give someone who is contemplating selling their business and making a transition? Just one key thought that they can take away?
Right. So I'll just say this, prior to meeting you all, I really didn't know much about what you all do and what we do. But now I'm realizing how necessary it is. Just like a brain surgeon cannot do surgery on themselves, they need someone to assist them. And so, the confidentiality that we bring into the marketplace is essential, versus when I'm trying to sell my house. I want everybody to know about it, right? Not in this case, right? So that's one thing, having a trusted agent. And I think, surrounding yourself with good people that you can trust. And, I can just say this, and this is really more about the character that I've seen in the Raleigh firm. For me to leave what I was doing and partner with you all, I think it just shows the character and the type of people that I can trust in. And knowing that the other brokers in our firm are going to help each other out and help our clients out to the best that we can. And so what I think is just a beautiful thing is that, they can get a valuation on their business. If they can let us peer into their books, with trust and earn that trust first, obviously, but look at their books, find the things to ask the difficult questions. And we will ask a lot of questions. And, are they really ready to sell? And then help them price their business in the marketplace, and then leverage the data, the information, the data mining that Transworld Business Advisors has across the world. It's just that we can help them make a decision. And we may not even list their business for them if we can't help them. We can definitely give them something to say, all right, here is a solid valuation that's apolitical. It's just right down the line. This is where they think that we can sell the business at. And I think that's an added value that any business would want to know. And to know that earlier, whether it's 2 or 3 years prior to selling, that's all the better, right? Because that will just compound to a healthier business. That's why I think of myself as more of a business consultant than somebody that's closing deals, because it starts with a relationship. And that's another thing that I love about our firm. It's relationship. Because if we're not going to, I'll say this, the wrong client is somebody that just wants us to go through the numbers and there's not a relationship. I don't think we're going to be able to give them our best if it's just a transaction. It's going to be upon a relationship. And that takes time. It took them a long time to build their business to what it is, to make it successful. It didn't happen by accident. It's also going to take time to peel back that onion and understand what we can do to get them the most value for what they've invested in, because they're the ones that worked hard. We want to help and support them.
Yeah, I think that's a good word. So in case those watching the video haven't picked up on it, not only did Raleigh transition out of being an owner operator at Chick-fil-A, but he is now a business broker with the Transworld Raleigh office. And so Raleigh, what are some of the things that you're excited about in embarking on this endeavor, and what are some of the things that sort of goals that you've set for yourself for the coming year and the time ahead?
Yeah, really, for me, I'm looking at really listening and trying to express care to those people that I'm around. I mean, just today, I was at one of the services that I frequent in the community, and I know the business owner, and they were asking me how things are going, and I told them that I'd made a transition, and we exchanged cards. This person's ready. They're in that age and season where they're saying, you know what I'm doing is hard, it's difficult. Let's go ahead and do this. So that that's what I love, and being able to help in that way. And I think if we help others enough, everything takes care of itself. And I think that's the whole approach I'm taking, is try to learn a lot, listen a lot, and be a helper. Everything else will work out.
Well, we are excited to have you on the Transworld Raleigh team, and we know that good things are in store for you and for us as a team. And so we're glad to have you with us. And I hope that that this little interview will inspire some of our business owners to embrace that exit strategy and not shy away from it or be afraid of it, but embrace it and make the most of it, and kind of create new opportunities for themselves in the process of doing it, just like in your story.
That's right. That's right. Like Steve said, like we said earlier today, we're all going to dismount. We just don't know when.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, you know, here's an inspiring story for them to realize that this can be a really awesome thing if you embrace it and make the most of it. And so, thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. You have a great day, Mike.
Yep.
For my pleasure.
All right. Bye.